Have you ever been told that Islam began in the Arabian desert as a perfect revelation, dropped from heaven, clear and unchanged? That Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, brought forth a scripture so pure, so unique, that it stood apart from anything before? That Islam was a distinct religion separate from that of neighboring religions? Well, according to historian Fred Donner, the reality is far more complicated, far more human. His book Muhammad and the Believers at the Origins of Islam tears away the polished story and reveals an unsettling picture that Islam did not start as a distinct divine religion, but as a messy coalition of people cobbled together under Muhammad's leadership. Donner argues that Muhammad was not initially the head of a religion called Islam. Instead, he led a vague, fluid group he simply calls the community of believers. Who are these believers? They were not just Muslims as we think of them today. They included Christians, Jews, and other monotheists, all drawn together by the simple idea of worshipping one God and living righteously while expecting the end of the world to come soon. The word believers occurs around 1,000 times compared to the word Muslim, which appears 75 times if we read that in the Quran. In the Quran 49 verse 14, the Bedouins claim that they believe, but Allah reproves them, saying, "You submit, but you do not have belief," clearly showing the distinction between submission and belief. Similarly, in Quran 3 verse 199, it is implied that there are believers among the Jews and the Christians, and the Quran states the following: "Indeed, there are some among the people of the book who truly believe in Allah and what has been revealed to you, believers. And what was revealed to them? They humbled themselves before Allah, never trading Allah's revelations for a fleeting gain. Their reward is with their Lord. Surely Allah is swift in reckoning." Further examples come from Quran chapter 3, 113 to 115. Yet they are not all alike. There are some among the people of the book who are upright, who recite Allah's revelations throughout the night, prostrating in prayer. They believe in Allah and the last day, encourage good and forbid evil, and race with one another in doing good. They are truly among the righteous. They will never be denied the reward for any good they have done, and Allah has perfect knowledge of those mindful of Him. Here Donner also adds that each group, including Christians, Jews, or Muslims, all had their revelation. The Jews had the Torah, the Christians the Gospel, and the Muslims now had the Quran. A further support of this is the so-called umma document, where it claims that the Jews of Medina had their own law that they were part of the same umma or community of believers. This is Kitab al-Umma, or the Constitution of Medina, an ancient document from the time of the Islamic prophet Muhammad that formalized the political alliance between the various tribes and Jewish communities in Medina. Another support for this thesis is coin imagery. As the expansion of the believers occurred and consolidated, many of the leaders of the believers, called Amir al-Muminun, issued coins which had imagery including crosses which were issued during the time of Muawiyah, who was the first Umayyad Caliph. We also have Zoroastrian imagery depicting a fire temple. The later accusations of Muslims towards the Christians that they are worshippers of the cross or that they are idolaters of the cross comes in direct conflict with the early attitude of Muslim believers. This means that the earliest followers of Muhammad did not see themselves as members of a new religion. They were more like apocalyptic seekers united by fear of judgment and the promise of salvation. And if that is true, then Islam's story of being revealed in its full, completed form from the very start simply collapses. According to Donner, Muhammad's message was not a brand new revelation. Instead, it echoed and often borrowed from older Jewish and Christian ideas already circulating in Arabia. Stories of the biblical prophets, of Moses, of Jesus, all find their way into the Quran, but reshaped, reworked, and sometimes distorted. Rather than standing alone as a divine masterpiece, the Quran in Donner's account looks like the product of a religious patchwork stitched together from fragments of traditions already in existence. If this is the case, then the claim that the Quran is entirely unique, perfect, and untouched by human hands becomes very difficult to defend. So what happened? Why don't Muslims today remember this coalition of Jews and Christians inside their ranks? Donner explains what may have also brought to a departure from the earlier ecumenical stance. According to Donner, was perhaps the continual resistance of the Christians to relinquish their worship of the Trinity, as well as the Jews' refusal to accept Muhammad as a prophet. It should be also noted that with the arrival of Abd al-Malik from 685 to 705, there was a drastic change in coin imagery. Whereas before the coins issued by previous caliphs included Christian and Zoroastrian imagery, now they started to have only Arabic scripts. That is when Islam began to take shape, not during Muhammad's lifetime, but decades later, under the leadership of those who followed him, like Abd al-Malik. The Quran itself, which Muslims claim was preserved flawlessly from Muhammad's lips, may in fact be a text reflecting this evolving process, a book shaped and solidified only as the community itself changed. What was once a diverse coalition was rewritten as the story of one man founding one religion, revealed perfectly and preserved eternally. And here is where Donner's work delivers its most devastating blow. If Islam was not distinct at the beginning, if it started out as nothing more than an apocalyptic fellowship of seekers, then the grand claim of Islam collapses. Because Islam insists it is the final revelation, the perfected truth, the one true religion that came completely from the start. But if Donner is right, Islam was never unique, never complete, never final. It was just another religious experiment, one more human invention among many. It later covered its tracks by rewriting its history. The supposed purity of Islam's origins, its greatest boast, is exposed as a myth. So what does this mean for us today? It means that Islam's origins look less like a miracle and more like a politics and opportunism. It means that the Quran is not a divine book dropped whole from heaven, but a collection of borrowed stories. It means that Muhammad was not the final prophet of a final religion, but the leader of a fragile coalition that only later reinvented itself as Islam. Donner's research, whether Muslims like it or not, makes it clear Islam began not in clarity but in confusion, not in revelation but in revision. Story Muslims tell about the origins, that of a pure revelation, final and complete, does not stand up to historical scrutiny. When the curtain is pulled back, what we see is not defined perfection, but a cobbled up together movement of believers, uncertain, improvised, and only later rewritten as destiny. So the question remains, if the foundation itself is cracked, what does that mean for the house that was built on top of it?